What is going on, guys? This is your first time here. My name is Tu, and I'm an off-roader and a mechanic professionally. So today's video is going to be 5 things I hate about the 4th gen 4runners, and then 5 things that I like about the 4th gen 4runner. So my 4runner specifically, her name is Mallrunner, and it's a 2006 Toyota 4runner. It's a SR5 V8, all full-time, four-wheel drive. So I'll just give you guys a quick rundown. So after the 5 likes and dislikes, I'm gonna do a walk around of Mallrunner. The last time I did it was a couple months back, and it's really like one of my first video that I'd posted on YouTube. So it's a refreshment, I guess. All right, so let's get down to it. All right, so the number one thing I like about the 4th gen 4runner, it has a V8 option. So the 4th gen starts from 2003 up to 2009, and it comes with either a V6, it's a 4-liter V6, or the 4.7 V8. And by the way, this is Evie. But yeah, so number one thing is that it has a V8 option, and that's actually why I got into the 4th gen. Before I realized that it had a V8 option, I was considering either the 5th gen or the 3rd gen. The 5th gen only has a V6, and then the 3rd gen also has either a V6 or a 4-cylinder. Obviously 4-cylinder is way too small, and then the V6 is small. V6 is only a 3.4. When I bought Mallrunner, it was back in Georgia, and I used to tow a lot of stuff, like boats and stuff like that, and I needed a vehicle that can tow something heavy. Alright, so that's number one. Number two thing that I like about the 4th gen 4runner is that it has A-Track. A-Track is what Toyota calls it. There's other companies that has it, like Nissan. Nissan's is called ABLS. And then the Jeeps, I'm not sure what the Jeeps calls it, they have it too. But what A-Track does is when the tire is spinning or is up in the air, it'll apply, the ABS system will apply brakes to that tire that's spinning, and it stops that tire from spinning so I can transfer power to the other tire. So in a way, it's like a limited slip. That's how it acts like. The number 3 I like about this generation is that it's comfortable. Some people have complained about it, but me personally, I like it. It's really comfortable during road trips, versus like a vehicle, like a small car or something. Your back and stuff like that tends to ache, or your leg starts to ache because it's really cramped. But it's comfortable. So I bought Mallrunner back in Georgia. I've driven all the way down to Florida Keys, Key West, and then from there I've driven across country. When we moved out here to Colorado, we went all the way to through Colorado into Utah. We went to San Paulo, off-road in San Paulo a little bit, and then we went to Vegas. From Vegas we kissed California just a little bit, and then went down to Arizona. And I went to tuning school down in Lake Havasu. So yeah, I've driven Mallrunner a lot. I bought Mallrunner at, I think it was like 230,000 miles. This is 2.5 years ago, and then now I'm at 310,000 miles. So I put a lot of miles on Mallrunner ever since I bought her. Alright, so we're on number 4. The 4th thing I like is that the electronics that are in the 4th gens are pretty modern for what it is. The sound system in the 4th gen are pretty modern. They sound pretty good. I like it. I have no complaint. There's always people out there who wants the newest and the greatest. Even now, like, there's other vehicles that are new, like 2022 whatever, and the sound quality, I can't tell difference. So from there, it has the, like I said, modern electronics, so airbags and A-Track and the 4x4 system, things like that. It can keep up. It can really keep up with the newer stuff. Yeah, I don't know any better way to explain it, but for me, I work on, being mechanic professionally, I work on a lot of vehicles, and I get in a lot of different vehicles. But if I, comparing the 4th gen to like 2022 vehicles, there's not much difference that for me personally. And then the last thing, the fifth thing, what I like about the 4th gen, specifically for me with the V8, is the towing capacity. Like I said before, I tow a lot of stuff, boats and stuff like that. I'll insert a picture here. When I bought Mallcrawler, my 3rd gen 4Runner, I rented a U-Haul trailer and I towed it back, towed it to the shop that I worked at then. And she towed it with no problem. So there's plenty of power to tow the heavier stuff. And me personally, I grew up in a big family, but my dad, he's a big truck guy. He had a Ram 1500. He had like 2 Toyota Tundras, and then 2 Toyota Tundra. He still has one now, but I'm not a big truck guy. It's not that I don't know how to drive big trucks or stuff like that, but me personally, day-to-day basis, I like to have a mid-size or smaller truck. So being a 4Runner is considered a mid-size SUV, and having the V8, so the towing capacity is there, and it does multiple things for me, so it works out in my favor, and I'm sure for you guys too. Alright, so moving on to the dislike. The number one dislike about this generation with the V8, so with the V8 is that it's a full-time four-wheel drive, so you're always in, some people consider it all-wheel drive. In a way it is, but you don't call it all-wheel drive technically, because all-wheel drive don't have a traditional transfer case. All-wheel drive would be like the Subarus, the all-wheel drive like the CRVs and stuff like that. But they consider it a full-time four-wheel drive because we have a traditional transfer case. But the front axle is always locked, or is always on. So the downside of that is that it eats a lot more fuel, so it's worse on gas. Yeah, so with it being full-time four-wheel drive is that I can't, or you can't do donuts and stuff like that. Well, it's harder to do donuts, or there's sometimes where being a two-wheel drive is helpful, but yeah, I just don't have the option. So I'll show you guys. Here's the switch. It just is 4 high and then 4 low. But yeah, that's the option, just 4 high and 4 low. And then when I'm off-roading, there's a switch to the side here, right there. That's the switch to lock the transfer case. Toyota calls it a differential locker, but it's not. People think that because they have that button, it'll be like a axle locker, but it's not. It's just to lock your transfer case. So when you're during like normal driving, with the transfer case being off, is helical gears, so it allows slipping. Yeah, so with the transfer case unlocked, it allows slipping, so you can drive it on dry pavement, on the road and stuff like that. With the helical drive, the front axle is not a constant split. It might be, let's say like this, for example, 30% power goes to the front, 70% goes to the rear. It doesn't stay that way. It varies depending on the what's going on. But yeah, that's what allows you to drive on the street. So when you're off-roading, you want to lock it. When you lock it, it transfers power 50-50, 50 to the front, 50 in the rear. But it's always nice to be able to disable the power going to the front and just have 100% go to the rear. But unfortunately with the V8, we don't have the option. There is aftermarket solution for that. People, they swap in the FJ Cruiser transfer case from the automatic FJ Cruisers, and from my reading, it's a direct swap, so it'll bolt up to the V8 automatic transmissions. And once you do a transfer case swap, you just gotta drill a hole for the transfer case lever, and then you gotta get a different length front and rear drive shafts. So if you go that route, then you can have a V8 with two-wheel drive, but that's extra money. The second thing I don't like about this generation, I haven't researched about this, but I know that I can't add it in. But for my situation with being an SR5 is that I don't have a button to turn off A-Track. So A-Track's always on. I believe the Limited has a button to turn off A-Track. But the reason why you want to turn off A-Track is this situation that I got in was I was coming home from a trail, and we were up in the mountain. You know, the road was curvy, and here in Colorado, when it snows, they sprinkle like sand on the road for added traction. Well, when the snow melts, the sand is still there. So if I'm taking a turn, let's say if I take a turn and then I need to slow down, if I tap the brakes a little bit, then A-Track thinks that, you know, something's going on. So if A-Track engaged while I'm turning and there's sand on the road, then I'll start sliding. There has been one time where I went completely sideways. So that, you know, that's not the only time that A-Track has, you know, has acted up like that. If you're on like gravel road and stuff like that, you gotta be careful too. Usually, I mean, it don't always happen when you hit the brakes. Sometimes A-Track is, you know, if you're taking a turn too sharply, and A-Track engaged by itself. So you just gotta be mindful of that. So what I did to overcome that, if I know that I'm gonna get in that kind of situation, I have a kill switch for A-Track. So what the kill switch does is you interrupt the signal from the brake booster. We have a electric booster. So I'll show you guys the booster in just a little bit, but let me show you the kill switch first. So the kill switch is just a toggle switch right here. So what that switch does when I turn it off is it cuts that signal from the pressure sensor, and then that triggers the traction control system and turns A-Track off. There has been scenarios where I needed to really turn it off. For an everyday driver, if you're not off-roader, you know all this what I'm explaining to you, it don't matter. But when you're off-roading, especially if it's like a lot of ice or a lot of snow, then you want to turn A-Track off. So let me show you guys the booster. Yep, so this is the brake booster. Like I said, it's not vacuum, this is electronic, and how it works is this cylinder right here. So that's what creates the pressure for the brake system, and that's how A-Track works on these. All right, so number three is the aftermarket support. So the 4th gen, a lot of people don't like the 4th gen, and you know there's multiple reasons why. But the 4th gen, I believe, out of between the 3rd and 5th gen, the 4th gen are the least sold 4Runner. And the main reason for that, from my understanding, is that, and also this goes into the discontinue of the 4th gen, is that 4th gen, like I said, the year ended at 2009. Well, you guys got to remember, 2007, 2008, 2009 is when the economy went down. Well, when it went down, you know, people stopped buying expensive stuff, and also gas price. These are not the greatest on fuel, so that creates the drop in demand for the 4th gen 4Runner. Yeah, that overall affected the aftermarket support on these. There's not as much. So the 5th generation 4Runners, the aftermarket support is really strong. You know, there's multiple. You can just Google it, and there'll be, you know, 10 companies that make front and rear bumpers for the 5th gens, and these are like good companies too, not just like cheap eBay stuff. Well, the 4th gen is more like 2 or 3, and then when there's not that much competition, the prices for parts are expensive, and you know overall you have to custom make a lot of stuff for the 4th generation 4Runners. So that goes on to number 4. The aftermarket support stuff, or what you can find or direct bolt on, are really expensive. So like just for example, the rear tire carrier, you know, if you were to buy one that has a tire carrier, the rear bumper with a tire carrier, I mean, as of right now, it's like $2,000 to get one. And then the front bumper, you know, a metal bumper, would be like $1,500, and that's just for like a basic one, you know. So it's really expensive. The 3rd gens are a lot cheaper, and in the 5th gen, there's a lot of different companies that make them, so you can get it. You can get one that matches, your taste. You want a full bumper, you want a 2 bumper, things like that. The 5th gens are really strong. And then number 5, the biggest thing I hate about these 4Runner, I don't know, is the V6 or the V8 problem. But for me, what I experience is understeering. Understeering is really big on this. I hate it. That's why on like gravel road and stuff, I drive pretty slow. But going straight, there's no problem. So what understeering is when let's say you're turning. You say you're turning left or right, it don't matter. When you're turning, well, instead of the vehicle turning, it still continues going straight. So it's a big problem on these. Like I said, I don't know if it's the V8 specifically. I think it is. I think it's the V8. It has extra weight up front, so it makes it steering a lot harder, I guess, on these. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. In the future, Mallrunner does need a rack pinion, but once I replace the rack pinion, I'm gonna put more negative camber up front and see if that helps. That's one of the trick when I grew up racing vehicles, drag strip and stuff like that, and one of the trick for the autocross guys, they run negative camber for the front tires. So negative camber is your tire is pointed in more. But what negative camber does when you're turning or the vehicle's leaning, the camber of the tire changes, so it goes more positive to the outer edge, to the outer tire. So if I have more negative camber, the tire should flatten out when I'm turning. Well, that's my hope. We'll see how that does. But it's going to be a little bit before I replace the rack. I'll give you guys an update once I get to that. Yeah, so that's the top 5 things I like and dislike about the 4th gen. So I'm gonna do a walk around, and hopefully you guys stick around and check it out. There's a lot of people out there that wonder, always asking what I've done to Mallrunner and things like that. So there's a chance to see it. For the rest of you guys, if you're gonna check out, I appreciate you guys watching the video this long. So let's move on. All right, well, I'm just at this park, and as I was speaking to you guys, it looks like someone pulled off to his shoulder a little bit too far, and I believe they're stuck right there. Alright, so I'm gonna go help them, and I'll be right back. Alright, well, I'm back, and got her out. She's not there anymore. Yeah, she just got off to the shoulder a little bit too far, and being in front wheel drive, I think that was a Dodge Caravan. Being in front wheel drive, just no traction. She couldn't get off the shoulder. She was just sliding in more. So yeah, pulled it out. I didn't want to film it because I'm at a park, and people come to the park for peace and quiet, and I didn't want to film pulling her out. Yeah, so this is the walk around. Fortunately today is pretty windy, so this is gonna be, I'm gonna speak to you guys, and then I'm gonna show you what I've replaced. So the first thing, I'm gonna start with recovery stuff first. So the first is my front recovery point is made by BBG 4x4. My rear recovery is a receiver or hitch receiver mount. It's made by Rhino USA. The front, I have a fiery red 13,000 pound winch, and how I mounted the winch is a DIY hidden winch plate made by Harbor Freight. Well, they didn't make it, but that's where I got it from, is Harbor Freight. Moving on to armor. The front armor is a DIY. This is a plate that I made and bent. It's a 3/16 engine skid plate, and it covers a little bit of the transmission. The fuel tank skid plate is I made it myself, DIY 1/4 inch plate. These are Metal Tech lower link skid plate. These are the 4X Innovation wheeled on rock slider. Moving on to the exhaust. The The headers I'm running are made by Doug Thoroughly. These are the shorty headers. Cal converters are high flow, 2.5 inch. I have TRD Pro cat back. They are 2.5 inch all the way back. The tailpipe is a bumper exit that I made myself. And then I'm using a 9 drive throttle controller. Front suspension is Bilstein 5100 shocks paired with Omen Emu 886 front spring, and I believe they are 200 pound. I forgot to mention upper control arm is made by Freedom Off-Road. The rear is Bilstein 5100 paired with Omen Emu 896 rear springs. I believe they are 400 pound. And I made a DIY 2.5 inch extended bump stop. And then for the tires that I'm running, currently I'm running the BF Goodrich KO2. These are 285 70 17, and these are just for snow because right now it's winter month, so I have these on. But when during the summer and stuff like that, when I'm off-roading, I normally run the Yokohama Geolander XAT. They are hybrid tires, and they are 35 by 12 5 17, 35 inch tires. Alright, so interior and exterior stuff. This is aux beam switch panel. I think it is the first generation because there's no label on it. I'm just running these El Cheapo Amazon 6 inch. I think they're 6 inch, either 5 or 6 inch yellow LED pods. And this is a Amazon switchback. I believe it's a 32 inch light bar, and this is switchback because it can be white or ember. I got these USBs from Amazon. They are Toyota 4Runner or this generation specific USB outlet, and I'm using a 70. It's called 70 My dash cam. The radios that I use are Baofeng radios. I forgot. I think they're called 5VZ radios or something like that. But these are They used to be ham radios, but I reprogrammed them to be GMRS. And as you guys saw before, this is the 8-track kill switch. For the rear, this is a DIY tire carrier that I built myself. Tire carrier / high clearance bumper. So the bumper is moved up 6 inches from factory, and I welded on. These are 1.25 inch DOM tubing that I bent and welded on myself. And then the tire carrier that I built. Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I would change on Mallrunner. The first thing would be, the biggest thing that I want to change is the suspension setup. The Bilstein, it's a budget lift, and it does its job. It's pretty good for what it is. But, I wanted to, take a step forward. And the suspension I want to run eventually is going to be the Dobson MRA. It's a pretty expensive kit, but from all the feedbacks that I've been getting is that it's really good. I'm running Dobson now on Mallcrawler, but I'm running the basic kit, so it's the Dobson yellow. And yeah, so I want to run the Dobson MRA front and rear shocks. For the rear shocks, I want to run the long travel, and the long travel is 730 millimeter, which is, it's pretty long. That's like the longest that I've seen, especially for stock application. So yeah, Dobson MRA, and then I want to step it down to about 2 to 2.5 inch lift. So currently I have a 3 inch lift on Mallrunner right now, and 3-inch lift is a little bit too much. You know, I'm a little bit too high up off the ground, and you know, when you're doing hardcore or harder off-roading, is being that high up is you know, it's not ideal. So eventually I'm going to do a long travel, especially in the rear, you know, so I get more flex out of the rear. For the front, I'm pretty limited for what I can do, you know, being an IFS. And I'm not sure which route I'm going to go with yet. Is eventually I'm going to go either long travel up front. Yeah, eventually I'm going to go long travel up front, you know, get something like the Cambridge or the RCLT long travel. But those kits are pretty expensive. You know, you're looking to spend like at least like $5,000, $5-6,000 for just the standard kit. I don't believe they come with axles, so you gotta get axles too, longer axle. So that's the suspension. So I do want to put lockers on. I do have a rear locker that came off of a Tacoma, and it'll fit on these with a little bit of modification to the axle housing. I can get the rear locker to fit, but the front, that's going to be an aftermarket unit, obviously, because no Toyota came with a front locker. So the option up front, I believe, what thing was Eaton or Ian, whatever. They make an e-locker that fits the front. So I want to go the e-locker route. I don't want to fool around with airlines. You know, I've just seen people say that the A or B lockers, they're really good, really strong, and the only reason why they leak is improper installation. But I don't know, I just seen way too many A or B lockers leaking up front, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just gonna go full electronic lockers. So like I said, I already have a rear e-locker. I'm just waiting to get gears, or waiting to get a locker up front, just knock everything out at the same time. But we'll see. You know, that's probably gonna be like a Georgia thing. You know, I'll wait until I get to Georgia to do that. So with the locker, I want to pair it with 456 gears. There's several gear ratios out there. You know, they go as high as like 529s, but I think that's just overkill for the V8. I don't want to go that short of a gear, and I think 456 would do what I want it to do. Because so far I'm still, you know, rolling on 35s, and I'm still on the stock gearing, which is I think it was 373. It's really tall gears, but you know, as of right now, I have plenty of power. But to get more out of the engine, I do have the re-gear, and that's just the ratio that I choose to go with. You know, one of the biggest reasons why I want to go not too crazy on gear ratio is that I do a lot of traveling. So having really short gears, it's going to be bad for fuel economy at highway speed. When I'm traveling, you know, the normal speed that I go at is between 75 to 80 miles per hour, and having short gears, my RPM will be up too high and eat a lot of gas. So a lot of people, you know, ask me what kind of fuel economy I get. I average about 16 miles per gallon. All things considered, I'm pretty heavy sitting as is. So my drawer system in the back is going to be on a separate video. I'm not going to put it on this one. This one started pretty long. So a separate video, but as Mallrunner says, I'm right around 6,000 pounds, so I'm pretty heavy. So the V6 guys, you know, I'm getting 16. If you were the V6, you'd be close to like 14 miles per gallon. So that's where the V8 catches up, or go beyond the V6. Is, you know, it has the power to pull all that weight. So overall, it's good. Alright guys, well, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again next time.